Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second event in the Agronomics Capital Markets Day series, in which we talk to the management teams of companies within Agronomics investment portfolio. Today, we are joined by Onego's founders, Maya Itkinen and Christopher Landowski. Onego is a food biotech company that uses precision fermentation to create egg protein without the use of animals. Its sustainable proteins are an ideal industrial ingredient for replacing eggs and enhancing the texture, taste, and performance of a wide range of food products, from baked goods and confectionery to snacks, beverages, sauces, meat alternatives, and more. For the presentation, Onego's management team will provide in-depth insights into its products and the benefits of its technology, market demand and dynamics, and its growth strategy. As a reminder, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and if you would like to ask a question, please do so by writing it in the Q&A facility within Zoom. So, without further ado, I will hand over to Onego's Chief Executive, Maya Itkinen, to begin the presentation.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Really great to have us. We are the founders of Onego Bio, and we are disruptive egg farmers. So our mission is to revolutionize the food industry with this animal-free egg protein. This is a very broad impact that we are bringing. So with this technology, we are able to cater the industry with a stable and sustainable ingredient. So we have this animal-free egg protein that we are able to provide to food manufacturers to achieve this large-scale food system improvements. Let us tell you how. So this is the leadership team that we have. So myself, Maya Itkinen, I'm a third-time founder. So I already built and exited 2 tech companies before this, and now I'm up to the next innovation journey with this Onego Bio. We founded this company exactly 2 years ago with Chris Landowski, who is the CTO of the company. So you can say a couple of words about yourself here.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Landowski. I'm the Chief Technology Officer, and I basically have worked on the technology side of this production system. And I formerly worked at VTT Technical Research Center of Finland. I was in industrial biotechnology working on protein production systems for enzymes. And based on the enzyme production technology, we extended that to working on expressing food ingredients such as egg and milk proteins. And based on the technology that we had, it was very promising and very good for this application for food. So we decided to spin this off to commercialize the egg ingredients, egg white protein ingredient.
And talking about ingredients, so the third person in our leadership team is called Paavo Salminen. He's a Chief Business Development Officer, and he's an food ingredient business specialist. So he's a person who has been spending like 20 years in the dairy business and selling food ingredients around the world. So that this is extremely important for startups, especially to also have this like first-hand experience on the actual market that you're working at. And this is where Onego masters it extremely well. So this is a short description of our journey. So this whole thing started quite a long time ago already at this research institute VTT, where the precision fermentation was first studied for the enzyme industry. And then Chris and his team got this idea that, okay, maybe we could consider making also animal proteins directly with the same platform. So the research continued, and then there were like a lot of great customer cases. But in 22, we decided to have this spin-off to really have like a little bit deeper involvement in the business. So we made this deal with the VTT, had Agronomics and also Maki as investors for our Series Seed. And then those following 2 years we spent on just developing further our process and making industrial trials with certain customers, building the traction with the industrial partners, and then of course preparing ourselves for the regulatory approvals. So this year we started with finalizing this Series A funding round. So we closed the first part of our funding round. So that was together 37 million euros. We still have about 5 million of that left. I will tell you a little bit more about that later. But now this year is fully focused on having these regulatory approvals in place, and working with contract manufacturing partners and really like getting ready for the commercial launch. So next couple of years, we will be fully focusing on the contract manufacturing and getting the product to the customers, and then moving little by little towards our own manufacturing. And I will also talk about that later in the presentation. But yes, so Onego is fully focusing on egg protein. And the specialty in this egg market is that, first of all, it's gigantic in size. So it's more than 300 billion in size, and also volume is astonishing. However, the current state of that market is not that good. So the problem started already several years ago when many governments around the world started to make these requirements for the cage-free production. So it's quite understandable that, you know, the cages where you squeeze these animals into little metal boxes, it's actually not very human. So like a lot of animal welfare issues are connected to that. But at the same time, it's not very easy to actually switch those cage production systems into cage-free. So it's extremely like expensive, first of all, and it also has like all kinds of other dilemmas in there. One of them is that this avian flu that has been now circulating about 3 years in a row is actually a quite long period for that disease, but that's spreading extremely well in these non-cage farms where the birds have this ability to move around. So avian influenza is hitting these markets really badly, that the prices are fluctuating and the availability is getting low, and it's kind of like just not sustainable for these users of the ingredient, because you can't really rely on what's happening next. So this is extremely bad. And at the same time, of course, these ESG requirements, these are getting tighter and tighter. That it's a well-known fact that animal protein production have a high environmental cost. So a lot of pollution, a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, a lot of land and clean water are used in there, and this also has a price. So everything has a price tag, and who is going to pay the price when this current egg production is already like very unprofitable? So governments need to subsidize that a lot, and this is also a dilemma. So you would of course think about that. Well, if that doesn't really work, why would you even need to have this animal protein? Well, the thing is that it's very difficult to replace the egg protein with the plant-based alternatives, mainly because of these very special functionalities. So especially these like foamability, chelation, and so on, is just weaker in these plant-based alternatives. And of course, also there's this taste profile that is quite different to say, for example, in bean proteins compared to this egg that is a very neutral protein as such. So we have been talking to many of these big food manufacturers around the world, and basically everybody is telling the same story, that we need to get rid of this egg protein into recipes. So there's a very big motivation to move away, and there is a clear market for Onego for that. And about our way, so we are kind of new, but at the same time, we are also relying on a very old and traditional method, which is called fermentation. So fermentation is a really old way of producing food with the help of microbes. And this has been really practiced thousands of years for example, beer making, yogurt making, etc. And a couple of decades ago, people found out the way to also do these food additives with that method. To say, for example, as an example, human insulin, that was also extracted from animals in the early days, which is extremely like not very effective, and also like it's very expensive. So kind of like the way of producing it with the microbes is just happening in much bigger scale in a much more reliable environment. So this has been now then implemented to all kinds of food aids, to say enzymes and color components, flavors, rennet, and so on. So many of these ingredients are produced with the same method, and we're eating them every day already. So in that sense, there's nothing new. So what's really new in here is that we are not just making these main proteins with the microbes. So it's not just the additive, but it's actually the main protein in that food. And Onego's product is this Bioalbumen. So Bioalbumen is a trade name for that product. It's the bioidentical egg protein that is bioidentical both in the nutritional perspective and also the functional perspective. So it has the same amino acid profile. It works the same way in recipes. It has the same, or it could be even having like stronger functionalities. And because of our great technology, we will tell you more about that, we're able to make it in price parity. So kind of like saying that when you have this combination that it really works the same way, you can avoid all of the supply chain problems and price fluctuations. You can have it in the same price and still 90% lower environmental footprint. We see that that's a win-win-win combination for this ingredient. So this is a plug-and-play solution with very easy integration. So it works as a drop-in replacement in all kinds of foods. And because we really are producing this, the main functional component of the eggs, it basically also replaces not just the egg white, but the actual whole egg in the recipes. Yeah, so this we have been trying and testing it across all kinds of applications, and it's been proven to work extremely well. Here's a little video for you to see about our biscuits. And these are really delicious also in real life, so not just only in the images. But yes, then Chris, would you tell us a little bit about the technology?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as Maya just earlier said, this kind of technology is decades old and have been used a lot in the enzyme industry, especially for food manufacturing and feed treatments. So Trichoderma rhizae is a specific filamentous fungus that is industrial used by all the major enzyme companies such as Novozymes, DuPont, AB Enzymes. So other various companies in the world are using fungal platforms for low-cost enzyme production. As we said, we utilize this system because it's pretty well known and we had a lot of skill using it earlier. But Trichoderma then is cultivated in bioreactors, so very large vessels that you could, for instance, grow in a 200,000 liter scale. And it grows on very simple media. Culture, like kind of the food for the organism, is very simple. It's just basically corn sugar and some nitrogen, some really basic things. And it grows and it secretes the protein. So the fungus is the living biomass part of it, but it's secreting proteins out of the biomass so that you can very easily separate the biomass, the mycelium part of it, by some, for instance, filtering away the mycelium biomass, and then the liquid fraction that is left is washed and concentrated and dried into a powder, which is our bioalbumin product. Just an interesting point too, that there's some nice circularities here. For instance, the biomass that I talked about, the mycelium parts, could be used as a material. For instance, making packaging. We have made leather from that, or it even could be consumed by pets as a pet food. But we also have some, I think, interesting ways to actually add in different types of inputs beyond just corn sugar. But this is sort of a circular system for production. Microbial cell factories, there's a lot of different production systems out there that one will encounter in industry. Of course, most well known maybe are bacteria such as E. coli. That is something has been used for a really long time, but there are certain challenges with that. Maybe it doesn't scale very well to really large vessels. There's yeast, there's plants, and there's filamentous fungi. The yeast, of course, are maybe next well-known system other than the bacteria, and they're good. Of course, there's something well-known in the brewing industry. Of course, you can also produce proteins with them. For instance, the example was given about human insulin, and human insulin is also produced with a yeast. Plants are mentioned here, but they're maybe not so scalable for industrial purposes, and that's why the filamentous fungi are used in industrial scale. So very high yields, low biomass amount of growth, and they are very cost effective. And here's one particular platform that is sort of our pet platform called Trichoderma reesii. It's a very interesting history. Was discovered during World War II in Solomon Islands. The tents and canvas gear of the military were being rotted by the enzymes that were produced from Trichoderma. The fungus was living on the surfaces of the tents and the different equipment that were there, and it was degrading that. So the military had just started studying that, and eventually studied it and gave it a name. Actually, it was by Erwin Reesey. So the last name of the man was given the species name, Trichoderma reesii. And it would normally grow in the forest or on kind of decaying wood. So it would live on wood, as you can see here, and that it basically makes enzymes so that it can degrade the complex sugars that are the cellulose into simple sugars that it can ingest and eat. And of course, this is for whatever reason, became a very a leading host for the biomanufacturing enzymes. And that, of course, is kind of the core of what we had been doing earlier. And at my previous place in VTT, I had made a lot of improvements of the fungus, so genetic improvements to make it more efficient, to make it better quality product. And so here are many patents that I have been involved in discovering about the improvements of the fungus. So we have then utilized this platform before, and now we have licensed this from my previous institution. And so this is a very narrow technology that not many people have access to. So, but we have that plus all the IP that comes along with being a spin-off. Here are some comparisons of a yeast system. So typically, many other startups will be focused on yeast because it is something simple to get. Anybody can buy that and utilize that. But again, there are some advantages in that, of course, it grows, it's easy to work with. But then when you're talking about manufacturing, there are definitely a lot of downsides. It's very demanding host organism to cultivate. It grows very densely, so lots of biomass is generated inside of the vessel, which creates a lot of demand for oxygen, demand for cooling, demand for food. So for example, when you do a production, you may see that the production level would be something around, let's say 25 grams per liter, like in a really large best case scenario, and that would yield you in 100,000 liters, it would yield you about 2,500 kilograms of product. So which is okay. It's good for if you are selling insulin, but this is not so cost effective if you're selling a very lower cost enzyme or other food ingredient. So then we have here the other example of filamentous fungus. So this is a little bit easier to cultivate. There's a very low amount of cells that grow in the tank. And that, of course, then requires less demanding conditions. So the cooling is lower, there's lower oxygen demand, there's high secretion. So for instance, with this system, you may end up with 80 grams per liter of your production in the same volume, which would give you about 8,000 kilograms of dry product. So if your costs are even equal of doing this, so you're going to get more value from using the filamentous fungus. And that's why the enzyme industry has gravitated toward these fungal systems.
Yeah, and like just to repeat, it's extremely difficult to have access to that platform. So of course, many of these companies would like to have that, but because this is very well protected and the IP is held by big institutions and big corporations, it's not very easy to have access to that. Okay, so some words about the impact. So this environmental impact per kilogram of protein. This is significant, so more or less altogether around 90% lower environment footprint. Of course, the biggest ones are the land use. So the chicken farming or the egg farming is taking like a lot of land. This greenhouse gas emissions also like almost 90% lower. And then, of course, also the fresh water. So all in all, if you're able to make the same product with the same price, but so much lower footprint, it's quite significant. But it's also important to look at the circularity, like Chris was just a little bit mentioning about that. This is also very important, like just looking at from the food system level perspective. So this is kind of like an image of the current egg production. So in all honesty, I mean, this chicken manure is a main product of the egg farming. So it's about 65 times more than the actual production of the egg protein.
Yes, one interesting number is that the chicken per day would eat 150 grams of feed, but it only makes 6 grams of protein.
Exactly.
So that's about 4% kind of conversion, I guess, to egg protein.
Yes, exactly. And like all kinds of side streams are generated throughout the process in order to just have this like little amount of the egg protein that is so valuable for the humans. But the beauty of this fungal system is that this fungus can use all kinds of other things as the carbon source. So it does not necessarily need to be this virgin corn sugar. That, of course, is a great starting point, but like looking at from the sustainability viewpoint, that is still growing in the premium grasslands. That is also like quite vulnerable. That there's just not enough farming land for the humans in the future. So we are just in the middle of like studying all these different feedstock items to say utilizing all kinds of side streams from different food production processes. So to say, for example, like wheat bran from the pasta making, some some extra date material that is left out from the date processing, or the pea starch that is coming from the pea protein making, for example, or for example utilizing cactus material that is coming from these dry lands that are not good for any kind of food farming. So having this like valorized feedstock and then feeding that to trichoderma, that's already really good. But then if you can also utilize this biomass, this fungal mass that is coming as our side stream, and make, for example, these packaging materials like paper-like materials, leather-like materials, or feeding that, for example, to your cats and dogs. So all of that makes this system like a very, very advantageous and very different compared to the traditional method of producing foods. So kind of like summing it up, we see that we are kind of like just starting a new era of the food processing. So like here, the first layer is this current way of producing food. So the factory farming, well, it is a mass farming at the moment, but everybody knows that it is rather fragile in the big picture. So then people have been trying and testing these plant-based substitutes that might be good for the environment, but not necessarily answering the requirements. So then they are not used in that scale because they just don't work just like they should in the end products. And then this is already a great achievement, like being able to do this, manufacture this egg protein with the corn sugar as feedstock. But if you can actually utilize these side streams, this otherwise abandoned like material as your feedstock, then you're really into something completely new and completely improved for the food system. But yeah, so some words about this business development. So we are working with this big animal produced protein business that includes dairy and eggs. So that's kind of like our big market. Then the actual egg protein market is inside of that, which includes the shelled eggs and then the egg ingredients. Well, we are not that much interested in going to the breakfast eggs. We are more interested in this processed eggs, which means the egg ingredient that the food manufacturing companies are utilizing. So that might be liquid eggs, liquid egg white, liquid egg yolk, powdered eggs, powdered egg white, powdered egg yolk, and so on. So that's ultimately our market, and that's almost like 100 billion in size. So there's definitely enough space in that market. And this precision fermentation is a very fast growing business at the moment. So people say that this is really like we're on the brink of like an industrial breakthrough, that there's this big movement and change happening to move away from this animal-based industry into actual bio-food business, and the precision fermentation is really growing extremely fast at the moment. But yes, so our bioalbumen is really the only solution at the moment that is answering all of these requirements of the sustainable egg production. So here, if you look at this, the traditional conventional production, well, it certainly answers the performance, because the ingredient is the bioidentical ingredient and it works like it should. Even the cost can be rather low, considering that you wouldn't have the avian flu or something like that disturbing it, but then the environmental impact is really huge. Then you might have some of these like yeast-based precision fermentation systems that might just give like the right performance and also answer to the environmental impact. But Chris was just explaining about this importance of the right technology, that in order to reach the right scale, you need to have the right technology so you can actually reach the right price levels. So at the moment, this Onego Bio product, the Bioalbumen, is the only one that is really answering both the performance and the cost and the environmental impact. So we started this journey back in 2015 with this VTT. We concluded this seed funding round a couple of years ago, and we now just finalized this Series A funding round. The first part of that, and now we're off to the contract manufacturing and then moving to the factory financing in the next couple of years. So we're now very much focused on this sampling of the customers. So we're working with some of the biggest manufacturers, food manufacturers in the world. They are all confirming that our product works extremely well in the applications, and they are very much willing to continue these industrial trials just to get the industrial recipes finalized. And at the moment, we are just negotiating with several contract manufacturers, aiming to focus the next 2 years manufacturing with our partners. But then at the same time, we are also like engineering our own factory that is going to be then breaking ground in 26 and then going to be operational in 27. And then our plan is to really have that modular unit as our main building block, because egg industry is a really global industry. You need that everywhere. So there is no market that would not use egg protein. So just having this one modular unit of the factory that can be then replicated in the strategic locations around the world. Do you want to say a few words about our factory plans, Chris?
Yeah, so yes, the factory is a really important thing in order to get to the scale that we need. Of course, egg protein is used in such a massive amounts that even this factory unit would make 6,000 metric tons of bioalbumin, and that sounds like a lot, but in the food industry, we're talking like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of tons. So we do need to scale that up. Even more, of course, we are talking about one facility that would have, for instance, 12 bioreactors that would have 150,000 liter tanks there. And we are planning to now locate this in the US Midwest that is now close by the agricultural sources of corn and corn sugar. And that can be, and also there's a lot of food manufacturing in the vicinity as well. So we've been doing really nice projects on finding good factory sites, potential factory sites for building this. And of course, we're really excited about that to bring the technology into big use through this large manufacturing.
And it's really an optimal location because many of these big food companies are just there in your neighbor. So, and as an example, you know, like, yeah, Chris was saying that, you know, this volume sounds like a big volume, but at the same time, these big food products are really utilizing very big amounts of this ingredient. So as an example, there's one very well-known snack bar that is using about 2,000 tons of this equivalent egg product already per year. So just saying that basically this one factory would only have like basically 3 SKUs if you would have like that in place in big time. So just saying that it doesn't make any sense to do this any smaller because the demand is really, really strong.
Yeah, and I just comment a little bit on that, I think we talked to one of the 10 of the current customers and we asked them estimating how much they all would use. It was about 80 to 100,000 tons that they would combine need in a year. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of getting them supply of that.
Exactly. So having this modular unit that we can then multiply in all strategic locations, that's really like the plan. Okay, and then, yeah, something about our funding round. So we just finalized this 27 million equity plus 10 million euro non-dilutive financing just a few weeks back. We have still this opportunity for the second closing. So we have reserved 5 million for the coming investors if there are some new ones who still want to join this round. This is led by a VC called Nordic Ninja. And then Agronomics is also following in that round. At the same time, we're also applying funding from other sources. So we see that it's extremely important to kind of like be very active on all fronts. There's a lot of money available for this biomanufacturing now, both in Europe and in the US. So we're very actively working on that. And with the help of this financing, it's going to be about 24 months. We will have like a commercial position. So we will have the regulatory side sorted out and we will have the product supplied to food customers. So that's going to keep us very busy for the coming 24 months. Okay, but yeah, just summing it up. So we're working on a very, very big market. So there's definitely enough market for everybody. There's a clear need in the market. And there is a technology that actually offers like a great route to market. So having this superior technology with a strong IP that makes this path to market very straightforward for Onego. So our product, this bioidentical product, is very easy to understand. It's very easy to see how that could be utilized in the end applications, in the recipes. So we don't need to explain anyone why this is needed and why they would need to have this product in their system. So we have this regulatory side already in progress. This is not something that is done for the first time. So that's a really, really good thing as well. So there are a lot of products already utilizing the same technology. So this is something that the authorities have been seen before. They know that this is already a safe system. And Onego as a company, so we are only 2 years old company. We have a very straightforward strategy. So it's like nothing complex in here. We just have the company in Finland. That's at the moment that the headquarters in Finland and the daughter company in the US. The IP is held in the headquarters, and then the sales and the commercial unit, the first market is going to be in US. Our system is very profitable, so we are anticipating very high cross margins for our business, making it completely different compared to the current way of producing the egg proteins. So we have a very strong team. We have an extremely motivated team with about 30 people. The leadership team, we have experience both from like running companies to running research teams securing IP, to mastering the ingredient business, and so on. So we see that we are very, very well positioned also in terms of expanding the team later. And yeah, so the impact of the product is significant. So we already have been publishing this one LCA in a well-known magazine called Nature Food, and it proves 90% lower environmental footprint. So this has a very high potential for carbon reduction and also other type of environmental impact. Yes, but that's what we had for today. We would of course welcome all kinds of questions if you would have. Thank you.
So just to remind the audience that if you want to ask a question, please type it into the Q&A facility. In the meantime, we do have a few questions already in. So the first one is it the egg white only that is replacing that you're replacing as opposed to egg white and yolk?
Would you take that, Chris?
Yeah. We are basically producing chicken ovalbumin, which is an egg white protein. And that chicken egg white protein has all the major functionalities such as foaming, gelation, and emulsification. So in many of the applications we have tested, you no longer need the yolk. You can just use the egg white.
And what we are doing is that we are just guiding our customers to just a little bit adjust the recipes to say, for example, add a little bit more vegetable oil if the yolk is normally used in there, and just fill up the recipe with some other solid ingredients like a little bit more flour and so on. But as said, we are just isolating these functional ingredients, so that is really like taking all the functionalities of the egg proteins.
Thanks. A second question is, what is the research you have done that enables you to know that you can achieve price parity?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, the trichoderma ricea that we work with is capable of producing, let's say, 100 grams per liter of the product. And once you're doing that at a large scale, let's say 200,000 liters, you can quickly see that you can produce that product at very low prices in a way, something very close to the price parity. The chicken. So depending on the price of the egg white, chicken egg white, of course, it's going up and down all the time, especially when there's a bird flu or whatnot. But we see that the enzyme production technology that we're applying to this can meet the target price for the parity with chicken egg white.
Thanks, Christopher. A third question, can you please expand on what is Onego's technological advantage over the yeast-based platforms?
Yeah, as I said, our processes are a larger scale, so one can even easily grow up to, if you have a big enough bioreactor, let's say even 300,000 liters, that can be done with trichoderma because it's not very demanding or not very needy. So the process goes really smoothly and nicely. It scales well. And the high production levels that I just mentioned are one of the cost drivers, but that isn't even possible with yeast. I think the largest cultivations that would be done with a yeast system might be 80,000 to maybe a 100,000 liter cultivation probably. So they are limited by scale with yeast, and they also are not as productive. So you may get 20 grams per liter out of this production. So you're talking like probably more expensive to run the yeast process with yielding less material. So it's coming into the categories of $40 to $50 per kilo for that product made by yeast, and of course, many times less if you're using a filamentous fungus, as I just said. So there's just a fungus is sort of good at secreting. That's what it does in nature. So it makes a lot of sense. And that is what the enzyme industry has used for making, let's say, even washing powder enzymes. So there's a good reason why the industry has chosen filamentous fungi, because it's just better scaling and it's a cheaper platform.
And a further question from the same person, are there any advantages to using yeast?
Yeah, I mean, there are some advantages are that it's a little bit faster to work with. If you have maybe a medical product at the moment, that would be like let's say insulin. There's an approved system for using insulin in yeast, and that is approved by the medical authorities, whereas filamentous fungi aren't approved for medical products. So I would say within the medical field, there is definitely an advantage for yeast.
And also it's like very fast to have access to. You can just, order that to your lab and you can start immediately working with that. So nobody really owns it that much. So of course, that's also kind of an advantage.
Well, and honestly, there's also could be, depending on the protein you're working with, it is possible that's in some products that you make may work better in yeast. It is a possibility. So yeah, that's always on the table. But in general, if they're producing equally well, of course, as I mentioned, the cost economics and the scalability is better with Trichoderma or Aspergillus or some other filamentous fungus.
Thank you. And the same attendee has also asked if it'd be possible for you to share this presentation after the event.
Sorry,
could you share the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that we will take care of that. Just check that there's nothing that we wouldn't be able to share.
Yeah, okay. And further question, why do you think Onego was so successful in completing its recent Series A 40 million fundraise when other companies have struggled in what is a difficult funding market?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's a different market at the moment, but we will see that because Onego is like a very much like kind of like a fact loving company. So we're not that much into this storytelling. We are very much into this unit economics and kind of like this like very true core business dynamics. So just to say that clearly has been an advantage for us, that we actually own our technology, we actually know what we're doing, and we have like very clear plans on going forward. So there is not that big of a gap of like imagining how to make it work. And of course, one other thing is that we have like first-hand experience on building these processes. So we're working with a technology that we're not inventing it right now. So this is something that kind of like has been on use for a little bit longer time. So that's mastered extremely well, and we also have like core knowledge of that in our own team. And then last but not least, I mean, this product is extraordinary. So egg protein is something that everybody knows how to use. Just ask any food scientist or chef, why is egg needed in the food products, and they would say, yeah, I do know. So just saying that many of these alternative proteins are a little bit struggling with just justifying that, why would people need to change their food habits. So I think we just did the homework really well, but of course we are like very humble with that, and just like see that there's like a lot of work ahead. But at least we started from this like very factual starting point.
Thanks, Maya. And who is the primary customer?
Yeah, so we're only focusing on the B2B customers at the moment. The reason for that is there's such a big need in the market. So this egg market is really broken. And we see that like making these consumer products, absolutely, but there are so many other companies who can do those. So our job is really to provide this great ingredient and just make sure that we can help like improving this egg business. So yeah, only focusing on the B2B market. Our customers are these big bakery product bakery companies, other food manufacturers, to say like snack product makers, different like food product makers on all fronts.
Thanks. Another question's come in. Do you have a view on your path to profitability? Stated differently, at what scale do you hope to reach profitability?
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely do have. So this is kind of like referring to that, a little bit of my answer about this funding round. So yeah, absolutely we do. And the nice thing in there is that we say that because we are not really like inventing anything new for that. We are just basically replicating what's already done at the enzyme industry. So it's, yeah, we see this path like very clear.
Thank you. And a further question, what are your plans for the US market?
So we are not just opening our first office in the US, so we already have a company in there. We are not just opening the sales slash like a food application development lab in the US. And we are aiming to start first contract manufacturing and then serving products to customers through that, having the quality assurance in there, having the sales teams in there, and working first in the US market, mainly because of the regulatory side is so much faster in there. And then eventually just, expand into other markets. But yeah, I mean, we are already now starting in the US market.
Yeah, we have we're working on the US FDA GRAS notification. So we're actually now preparing the data for our dossier, and so towards the end of the year, where we'll apply to the US FDA. So that's one of the more important things around being able to sell in the United States. But that's actually a rather short process compared to some other places. So that could be anywhere from 9 to 12 months in the United States, and a lot of the similar products have already been, they have gotten no objections letters from the FDA already. So we see that there's a very low risk that there'll be any trouble there. But again, in Europe, that's a totally different story. And maybe that's a different story for another day. But yeah, we'll move on to Europe, but the kind of approval timelines are a bit longer, could be up to 3-4 years, depending on how the rules have been changed or improved in the future.
Yeah, and it's also easier to have that approval, once you're approved somewhere else. So it's not just like starting from scratch, but kind of like showcasing that, it's a safe product and we're already successfully making business with it elsewhere. So that's always a plus in the European market.
Thanks both. That's actually answered one of the further question about the regulatory landscape. So I'll move on to what looks like, it's probably time for the last question now. What kind of products are you looking into developing and launching in the future?
Yeah, so like I said, we are not just working with the B2B products, but Chris, maybe you want to say something about the functionalities, because that's really like setting up the landscape for the
so like around the functionalities, of course, since a lot of what we do involves foaming. I mean, the foaming of the product gives it a nice structure, and of course it will, like for making baked goods like cakes, pound cakes, that is very important. So these kind of bakery goods are something very fitting very well to our product. And we could see, for instance, actually when you make a product like a pound cake with bioalbumen, it even turns out better than egg white, because we do have this stronger functionality that it comes from the ovalbumin, creating nice structure of the cake, and that's air pockets there. So that's very good for that, for baking, as you can see. Also for these little biscuits and other things, that works out also brilliantly for making pulling it together and holding the flour and other things together. Then the really other interesting category are, let's say, mayonnaise, for instance, that we've been working on. So we could basically replace the whole egg and use just the bioalbumin for making a mayonnaise. And in the mayonnaise application, this has a lot to do with emulsification, keeping that the fats and the liquid emulsified into one nice creamy mayonnaise, so it won't separate. It'll stay like that for months and months and months. So we see that as another very interesting application that we have worked on. Of course, we can also make omelets, like the whole egg product. So omelets and scrambled eggs are also something we have been able to look into, and are working on some applications like that. So, or even putting together vegan nuggets. So is a kind of binder. Normally, like the vegan, you have a plant-based product that is sort of bound together by either CMC product, carboxy methylcellulose, or now we're going to be using egg, our ovalbumin, to bring it together to make sausages and nuggets that would be vegan in this way, so without the animal products. So this is kind of a new possibility for those products. So there's many different categories that we're looking into, but I guess starting from bakery, then some of the other things that are needed. It really is a lot driven by the customers we're working with.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Maya. Thanks, Christopher. I mean, that's a fascinating presentation. And I think we should probably wrap up there, given time is getting on. So I'll just hand back over to you, Maya, for some closing comments.
Yeah, thanks so much for everybody joining. Unfortunately, we cannot see you, but we're sure that you're there. Let's really stay in touch. I mean, we would love to hear from you if there's anything that you would like to discuss with us, or potentially, for example, joining this extension of our funding round. So let's stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.